Alright, we're live. I didn't take the time to set this up in its stand before I started. So, gotta get that situated. Alrighty. Camera's a bit crooked. That's alright. Still looks a bit crooked. What in the world? That looks good. Alright. Alrighty. Well, hey everybody, welcome. There's nobody live at the moment, but I trust there will be in just a couple moments. But for those of you who are watching after this is no longer live, thanks for joining in. We're going to be reading Treasure Island again, and this is the last chapter. This is chapter 34. So let me go ahead and take the covers off those. And again, I would be reading out of the dictionary, but I've got some things I want to do before I go to bed, and so, yeah, there's only 5 pages. I know that because I determined that yesterday. I remember looking through chapter 34. So, I'm just gonna wait another minute or so for people to join live, and even if there aren't any live viewers, I'm gonna start anyway. So, let me go ahead and stick this bookmark back in there while I'm waiting. But it's been nice, you know, reading Treasure Island, and I've enjoyed it, and I have stuck to the goal of getting it done before the end of the year, because it's still December 6th, and we're on the last chapter, so I'm gonna wait till that clock there on the top of my screen hits 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna start, live viewers or no. Alright. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to clean my glasses because they're kind of a little bit... Hello. Oh, what language is that? I want to say that's Chinese, but I cannot tell. Maybe it's Japanese, maybe it's Korean, maybe it's something else. But I'm afraid I don't read... It's Japanese, okay. I don't read Japanese, I'm sorry. I recognized it as some Far East language. Alright, so we've got some live viewers coming on in. Thanks for joining. And that clock at the top has hit 3.5 minutes already, so I'm gonna go ahead and start reading. Says hello. Well, hi. Alright, well anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get started reading. So I've been reading in Treasure Island, and we're on the last chapter. I've been trying to get through before the end of the year, and it looks like we made it. Keegan Davis says hello. Alright, let me go ahead and open this up. It's one of the shorter chapters, I think. It's around 5 pages, so not very long. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this now instead of at the the end. This is going to be the last chapter in this book. I just earned a new subscriber. Well, thank you. I appreciate subscribers. Anyway, this is the last chapter in this book, and then I'm going to take a break from reading for the till the end of the year, and then starting January 1st, if I end up having the time, I'll start reading another book, but I'm not going to do any more live reading until next year. And let me see if I can pull this out here. It's got a couple books stacked on top of it. I think this right here is what we're going to be reading next, I believe. Unless, you know what, actually, I'm going to go ahead and start a poll, because I'm kind of torn between two books. Buen libro. Gracias. I'm going to start a poll. Which book should I read at the beginning of next year? And I'm going to give you an option between two books. Let me start this here. Which book should I read next year? Question mark. And so the options are between what is this called? I'll just call it Collection of Jules Verne. Collection of Jules Verne, and this one, the other one is Heidi. There we go. All right. So I just started a poll there. You can vote there. So I've got Jules Verne, which is a collection of 4 books here, and then I've got back here Heidi. Let me get it out of its cover right here. This particular book was printed in 1945, so it's an older book. It's in really good shape for 1945. I'm rather pleased with that one. Alright, well that's enough talk. Y'all can vote on that poll while I'm reading. I'm going to go ahead and start with chapter 34, the last chapter in Treasure Island. Excuse me. Is that why it's in a case? Because of how old it is. I think the case is original to the book. I think, because there are some books that'll come in a sleeve, and they did that in older books as well, I guess. So that one's in a sleeve, and it is old, but I don't think that's why it's in a sleeve. I think it was originally in the sleeve. But it is a nice added layer of protection to have that sleeve. You have 3 books with cases. Most of them are old. Cool. I have a bunch of books that have been around for a while, but the particular copies that I have are not old. Although I do have this little stack of books here behind me. These are old, and then I've got two others up there. All of these and those are older than what do you call it? 75. I don't know why I just blanked on that. But anyway, they're older than 75 years old, the particular print that I have. And then this one is actually 144 years old, so it's an older book. Really old. And it's in good shape for 144. All right, I'm going to stop. You have a bunch of Magnas. Books from shows, anime. Cool. Alright. So, I'm just going to stop yapping, and I'm going to go ahead and start reading. So, chapter 34 is called And Last. That's a very appropriate title for the last chapter in the book. All right, here we go. Chapter 34 of Treasure Island. The next morning, we fell early to work for the transportation of this great mass of gold, nearly a mile by land to the beach and thence 3 miles by boat to the Hispaniola, was a considerable task for so small a number of workmen. The 3 fellows still abroad upon the island did not greatly trouble us. A single sentry on the shoulder of the hill was sufficient to ensure us against any sudden onslaught, and we thought, besides, they had enough of fighting. Therefore the work was pushed on briskly. Gray and Ben Gunn came and went with the boat, while the rest, during their absence, piled treasure on the beach. Excuse me. Two of the bars, slung in a rope's end, made a good load for a grown man, one that he was glad to walk slowly with. Good grief, how big are those bars? They're like bars of gold, like bullion, and saying that they were having trouble just walking with two of them. It's really weird. Let's see here. Where was I? Yeah, anyway, they had just 2 bars of bullion were, really heavy for, one man to carry. So that's a lot of gold. Anyway, let's see, where were we? For my part, as I was not much use at carrying, I was kept busy all day in the cave, packing the minted money into bread bags. It was a strange collection, like Billy Bones' hoard for the diversity of coinage, but so much larger and so much more varied than I think I ever had more pleasure than in sorting them. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Georges and Louis, doubloons and double guineas and moidores, that's probably the wrong pronunciation, and sequins, the pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years, strange oriental pieces stamped with what looked like wisps of string or bits of spider's web, round pieces and square pieces, and pieces bored through the middle, as if to wear them round your neck. Nearly every variety of money in the world must, I think, have found a place in that collection. As for number, I am sure they were like autumn leaves, so that my back ached with stooping, and my fingers with sorting them out. Day after day, this work went on. By every evening, a fortune had been stowed aboard. But there was another fortune waiting for the morrow, and all this time we heard nothing of the 3 surviving mutineers. At last, I think it was on the 3rd night, the doctor and I were strolling on the shoulder of the hill, where it overlooks the lowlands of the isle, when from out of the thick darkness below, the wind brought us a noise between shrieking and singing. It was only a snatch that reached our ears, followed by the former silence. "Heaven forgive them," said the doctor. "'Tis the last of the mutineers." "All drunk, sir," struck in the voice of Silver from close behind us. Silver, I should say, was allowed his entire liberty, and, in spite of daily rebuffs, seemed to regard himself once more as quite a privileged and friendly dependent. Indeed, it was remarkable how well he bore these slights, and with what unwearying politeness he kept on trying to ingratiate himself with all. Yet I think none treated him better than a dog, unless it was Ben Gunn, who was still terribly afraid of his old quartermaster, or I, who really had something to thank him for, although for that matter I suppose I had reason to think even worse of him than anybody else, for I had seen him meditating a fresh treachery upon the plateau. Accordingly, it was pretty gruffly that the doctor answered him. "Drunk or raving," said he. "Right you were, sir," replied Silver, "and precious little odds to you and me." "I suppose you would hardly ask me to call you a humane man," returned the doctor with a sneer, "and so my feelings may surprise you, Master Silver. But if I were sure they were raving, as I am morally certain one, at least, of them is down with fever, I should leave this camp, and, at whatever risk to my own carcass, take them the assistance of my skill." "Ask your pardon, sir. You would be very wrong," quoth Silver. "You would lose your precious life, and you may lay to that. I'm on your side now, hand in glove, and I shouldn't wish for to see the party weakened, let alone yourself, seeing as I know what I owes you." But these men down there, they couldn't keep their word, no, not supposing they wished to, and what's more, they couldn't believe as you could. No, said the doctor, you're the man to keep your word, we know that. Well, that was about the last news we had of the three pirates. Only once we heard a gunshot a great way off, and supposed them to be hunting. A council was held, and it was decided that we must desert them on the island, to the huge glee, I must say, of Ben Gunn, and with the strong approval of Gray. We left a good stock of powder and shot, the bulk of the salt goat, a few medicines, and some other necessaries, tools, clothing, a spare sail, a fathom or two or rope, and, by the particular desire of the doctor, a handsome present of tobacco. You read this book. It's very interesting. It is a good book. I like it. You have to go to bed. Well, good night. Have a good night. And thanks for watching for as long as you could. Appreciate that. Alrighty. That was about our last doing on the island. Before that, we had got the treasure stowed and had shipped enough water and the remainder of the goat meat in case of any distress. And at last, one fine morning, we weighed anchor, which was about all that we could manage, and stood out of North Inlet, the same colors flying that the captain had flown and fought under at the palisade. The three fellows must have been watching us closer than we thought, as we soon proved. For, coming through the Narrows, we had to lie very near the southern point, and there we saw all three of them kneeling together on a spit of sand, with their arms raised in supplication. It went to all our hearts, I think, to leave them in that wretched state, but we could not risk another mutiny, and to take them home for the gibbet would have been a cruel sort of kindness. The doctor hailed them and told them of the stores we had left, and where they would find them. But they continued to call us by name and appealed to us, for God's sake, to be merciful and not leave them to die in such a place. At last, seeing that the ship still bore on her course and was now swiftly drawing out of earshot, one of them, I know not which it was, leapt to his feet with a hoarse cry, whipped his musket to his shoulder, and sent a shot whistling over Silver's head and through the mainsail. After that, we kept under cover of the bulwarks, and when next I looked out, they had disappeared from the spit, and the spit itself had almost melted out of sight in the growing distance. That was, at least, the end of that, and before noon, to my inexpressible joy, the highest rock of Treasure Island had sunk into the blue round of sea. We were so short of men that everyone on board had to bear a hand, only the captain lying on a mattress in the stern and giving his orders, for though greatly recovered, he was still in want of quiet. We laid her head for the nearest port in Spanish America, for we could not risk the voyage home without fresh hands, and as it was, what with baffling winds and a couple of fresh gales, we were all worn out before we reached it. It was just at sundown that we cast anchor in a most beautiful landlocked gulf, and were immediately surrounded by shore boats full of Negroes and Mexican Indians and half-blood selling fruits and vegetables and offering to dive for bits of money. The sight of so many good-humored faces, especially the blacks, the taste of the tropical fruits, and, above all, the lights that began to shine in the town, made a most charming contrast to our dark and bloody sojourn on the island, and the doctor and the squire, taking me along with them, went ashore to pass the early part of the night. Here they met the captain of an English man-of-war, fell in talk with him, went on board his ship, and, in short, had so agreeable a time that day was breaking when we came alongside the Hispaniola. Ben Gunn was on deck alone, and as soon as we came on board he began, with wonderful contortions, to make us a confession. Silver was gone. The maroon had connived at his escape in a shore boat some hours ago, and he now assured us he had done so only to preserve our lives, which would certainly have been forfeit if that man with the one leg had stayed aboard. But this was not all. The sea cook had not gone empty-handed. He had cut through a bulkhead unobserved and had removed one of the sacks of coin, worth perhaps 300 or 400 guineas, to help him on his further wanderings. I think we were all pleased to be so cheaply quit of him. Well, to make a long story short, we got a few hands on board, we made a good cruise home, and the Hispaniola reached Bristol, just as Mr. Blandley was beginning to think of fitting out her consort. 5 men only of those who had sailed returned with her. Drink and the devil had done for the rest with a vengeance, although, to be sure, we were not quite in so bad a case as that other ship they sang about. With 1 man of her crew alive, what put to sea with 75. All of us had an ample share of the treasure, and used it wisely or foolishly, according to our natures. Captain Smollett is now retired from the sea. Gray not only saved his money, but, being suddenly smit with the desire to rise, also studied his profession, and he is now mate and part owner of a fine, full-rigged ship, married besides, and a father of a family. As for Ben Gunn, he got £1,000, which he spent or lost in 3 weeks, or, to be more exact, in 19 days, for he was back begging on the 20th. Then he was given a lodge to keep, exactly as he had feared upon the island, and he still lives in a great favorite, though something of a butt with the country boys, and a notable singer in church. Of Silver we have heard no more. That formidable seafaring man with 1 leg has at last gone clean out of my life, but I dare say he met his old negress, and perhaps still lives in comfort with her and Captain Flint. It is to be hoped so, for his chances of comfort in another world are very small. The bar, silver, and the arms still lie, for all that I know, where Flint buried them, and certainly they shall lie there for me. Oxen and wain ropes would not bring me back again to that accursed island, and the worst dreams that ever I have are when I hear the surf booming about its coasts, or start upright in bed, with the sharp voice of Captain Flint still ringing in my ears. Pieces of 8. Pieces of 8. And that is the end of chapter 34, and the end of Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's a good book. If you have not heard the rest of the chapters that I read, consider going back and listening to the rest of them. I have not put them all in a playlist just yet, but I'm working on that. The end. See you next year. Thank you. Voted as Heidi as the next read. Cool. Let's see what the results of this are. Alright. Well, that's the end of the... I'm going to end the poll, because we're right at the end. It doesn't look like we're going to get any more viewers. And you said you voted for Heidi, and I appreciate that, but unfortunately Heidi did not win. So, it looks like we're going to be reading Jules Verne next year, starting January 1st. There were 8 votes. Looks like 6 of them were for Jules Verne, and 2 of them were for Heidi. So, we'll read Jules Verne, and that means that Heidi will be the next option then. So, we'll read this one, and whenever that ends, who knows when that'll be. After that, we'll read Heidi. But yeah, thank you all for sticking around to the end. Let's see, how many pages was that again? 212. Awesome. Alright, so I have a little note card. Let me go ahead and get that real quick, actually, before I close off. And I'll show you... Where do I put this? Here we go. I'll show you something real quick. I'll be right back. It's not far, just on the other side of the room here. I've got it up here. Yes, there it is. All right. And I need a pencil. Alrighty. Alright, I'm back. Ugh. So, I've been keeping track of the books that I read throughout this year. And every time I finish a book, I write it down. So that was book number 26 of the year for me. And that was Treasure Island. So I write down Treasure Island. These are just notes for me so that I can go back and talk about them later, because I'm going to be making a video right at the end of the year that's going to review each of the books that I have read this year. It's not going to be an in-depth review, but it's going to be just my personal opinions about the book, how much I enjoyed them, how much I would recommend them or not. And so, Treasure Island, what would I rate Treasure Island? Huh. I'm stuck between 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. I'm not going to do 9.5 because that just seems silly. Is there anything that I didn't like about it? You know what? I think I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. So Treasure Island is a 10 out of 10, and the book had 212 pages. Excellent. And I'm actually in the middle of reading 3 other books right now. So those will soon be added to the collection of books that I've read this year. Let me go ahead, just give you a little sneak peek of that video that's coming out at the end of the year. So these are the note cards that I've been writing down. So you've got, this is the first one. You can see the names of the books that I've read, what I rate them, and how many pages. And here's the second note card. And the third note card, which I have not finished filling out yet. Let's see, today is the 6th, so I've got 25 days to finish reading. So I've got, I'm in the middle of reading a book called Fight Like a Man by E.Z. Wayne, and I'm reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. And then I'm also reading Desecration by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. That's part of the Left Behind series. As you can see, I've got that here behind me. It's number 9. You can see where my hand is. That's where it goes in the series. I've got 3 other books after that. So somehow I've got to finish the 3 books I'm currently reading, and then these 3 books before the end of the year. That's my goal. We'll see what happens. And then once I do that, I'll start making that video to review all the books I've read. Let's see, if I do end up reading all those books before the end of the year, that'll make 32 books this year, which is actually not all that bad, considering I didn't finish reading a single book until June. I wanted to try to read a book a week, which would make around 50 books. I got just a little bit over half of that. And I didn't even finish a book until June. So, excuse me. Just suddenly got a whole bunch of stuff in my throat. Don't know where that came from. Right. Well, I've got some things I need to do, and I've still got some time left to this night, so I'm just going to go ahead and close off this video. Thank you all for sticking around to the end. I appreciate that. Appreciate the view time. One of the things that I need for my channel to be monetized is a certain amount of view time. Actually, with the upright streaming, the vertical live stream, I don't think it counts towards video time. I think it counts towards shorts views. So maybe what I'm gonna do is when I start reading this next year, I'm gonna switch from vertical live stream to horizontal live stream, and that way, when y'all are watching, I get view time that way. But anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. I see I've got 6 likes. That's pretty good. That's actually the most I've gotten on one of these videos, I think. Yeah, so that was the last live stream reading for this year. Like just went up to number 7. Thank you. What was I saying? Yeah. So that's the last live stream reading for this year. I'm gonna try to start up Jules Verne starting January 1st. We'll see what happens. And of course, I'm not going to read every single day in 2025. There will be times that I'll take a break for a week or so. I might even take a month off or something like that. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. It's another 25 days, so that doesn't mean I'm not going to release any other videos during that time. I might release a couple, but no more live stream till next year. So, alright, I think I've probably belabored this point too much, but I'm going to say it again. Thanks for watching to the end, and I am now going to turn this live stream off. So, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good night. God bless.